Welcome back to Grassroots, the show that highlights youth and amateur sports. As always, you can find us on our parent network, Apollo Media Network. Follow them on social media at Apollo HOU. I'm your co-host, Everest Akajobi, with my man, Christian. What's up?
What's going on, baby?
Man, back again for another episode, man. Grassroots, we in this thing, rooted deep in culture, man.
Rooted.
Right? Hey,
origin, baby.
The origin of Grassroots. And we're going to get to that in a second. But we have a very special guest today. Someone I think that all Houston fans and sports fans would love to hear from. We have the assistant coach from George Mason University, based in Fairfax, Virginia, Houston native, Mike Ekanem. What's up, Mike?
What's up, fellas? Appreciate y'all having me, man.
Man. Is it still snowing up there?
What's that?
Is it still snowing up there in Fairfax, Virginia?
The snow slowed down a little bit. Finally.
Man, I saw some pictures the other day. It was like, man, y'all was out there playing snow angels.
It's a lot. It's crazy. When I first got the job, I asked my head coach, Coach Skin, I was like, man, it always snows out here, right? He's like, nah, it never snows. Come on.
He recruited you.
He absolutely recruited me. But Mike, a good decision.
Well, Mike, thanks for coming on the show. You know, our show, again, is called Grassroots, where we highlight amateur and youth sports and people that have a major impact on today's culture. Sure. So our definition of grassroots was coined by our co-host, Christian Begg.
So what we talk about is, like, as it attains to sports, is the origin, right? Just starting from the bare bottom, the true, like, just peel it all back, and just the origin where it all starts, right? So I always make the reference starting at YMCA level, baby. That's where everybody kind of starts at, and right there.
So, Mike, if we hear the term grassroots, what is your definition of grassroots?
I like the origin.
They can't steal our stuff. You can't steal our stuff.
Y'all got it. No, I would say just the beginning, just amateur level, just like where it all begins. So anytime I think of grassroots, that's what I would think of.
Right. So you from Houston, grew up in A-Leaf area, went to high school at Rosenberg Terry. Tell the people out there, we'll get to your long career of international and you've been in some of the highest places imaginable in athletics. Tell people what it was like for you growing up in Houston, your aspirations to see the world and travel the world through the game of basketball.
For sure. I mean, growing up in Houston was amazing. I mean, I love my city. Everywhere I've been, like, I always tell people, like, hey, Houston, you got to go to Houston. That's where I'm from. Like, I represent the H. But just growing up in A-Leaf, bouncing around a bunch of different neighborhoods in A-Leaf, lived in the apartments, and finally got a house, and just
the SWAT, baby.
Yeah, the SWAT. That's where it is. Like, just, I mean, what I remember the most is just outside all the time, like just playing outside at the pavilion right there by Elsick and Hastings, or just in the neighborhood, just playing basketball, running the streets, trying to find a hoop to play on.
Man,
so, I mean, that's it for me. Houston is everything.
So, all right. So we know you played at A-Leaf. You went to Rosenberg. Tell us about some of the people that we know or may not know that you played against during your high school years.
During my high school years, it's crazy. People don't know because I was at Rosenberg Terry, and we were solid in basketball. Like, we made the playoffs my sophomore year, my junior year, my senior year. We were terrible, but we were in the same district. My freshman, sophomore, and junior year, we were in the same district as all the A-Leaf and the Katy schools, 19-5A.
And that's when they were rolling.
You talking about Carlos Hurt at Elsick. You talk about Dante Stiggers at Hastings.
That's my boy.
Man, we were rolling. And then my senior year, we moved to the Fort Bend district. So all the Sugar Land schools, Willow Ridge, Hightower, Dulles, Elkins. And we were like the outlier. Like, nobody knew Rosenberg Terry, these small little dudes. Like, people didn't even know we were 5A. At the time, 5A was the highest level. But every night in district, like, you playing somebody.
So when Hightower came in, they were a new school. They came in there, but they came in strong. Coach Wise, I think, was coaching. Was he coaching when you played?
Coach Wise was the coach.
Did they have Lanny Smith on that team?
They had Lanny Smith. They had Michael Ume. They were loaded.
Lenny Smith went to U of H.
Yeah.
Started actively black.
Yeah.
Right? Y'all hopefully we can get him on here, give a shout out. Okay.
Yeah.
Went to U of H. Ume went to UNLV.
Ume went to UNLV.
Yeah, man. You
Nigerian
played
national
and then
team.
a lot of
And
people.
then
You mentioned a guy.
Willow Ridge had TJ Ford, Daniel Ewing, Kenny Taylor.
Man,
Like
back-to-back state championships.
back-to-back state championships.
You know, he mentioned Carlos Hurt, which a lot of people, you know, he was a McDonald's All-American. A lot of people will say he's one of the best, if not the best player to come through Houston, right, in a long, long time.
And
TJ gets the love, what he
Yeah.
did, but even TJ will say, hey, I'm giving it to Carlos Hurt. You know,
sure.
they have that competition
Yeah,
going.
Carlos was tough, man. Like Carlos was a combo guard. Like he's a point guard, but he could shoot it. He could do everything. He's athletic as hell, blazing speed. And then I think Carlos left his senior year.
Yeah, went to Louisville.
And went to
Louisville.
He moved and went to a prep school out there. I can't remember which one. And it ended up signing with Louisville. Still McDonald's All-American. Like Carlos was tough.
Yeah.
So while we're standing on these high school guys, all these names. So Mike, you played against a lot of these guys, and then guys not only in Houston but all over the state. So we want you to give us your starting 5 all-time athletes that you've seen at the amateur and youth level.
Now,
Well, hold on, it don't gotta be basketball
For
sure.
It don't. You can know somebody that you saw with your own eyes. And it doesn't have to be when you played. You could be now as a coach, you know, when you were playing overseas, we'll get to. So then starting 5, any sport.
So 5 amateur athletes
That
that
you've
I've
seen with your own eyes.
And we ain't even got to, the world doesn't have to know this,
sure.
this person. He could be a neighborhood legend.
For sure. Okay. I'll for sure say TJ Ford.
All right.
TJ Ford and Carlos Hurt. Like those are 2 guys like I had to go against. And
Hey, hold on, stop. Was you giving them buckets?
man, they was giving me buckets. It's okay though. It's okay. Like I said, I was at Rosenberg Terry. I was the man in my little area, but like when we played them, like it was a different,
so
it was a different story.
You
But
got Hurt and Ford.
I'll give them their flowers for sure. TJ Ford, Carlos Hurt. You said not just
It
basketball.
don't gotta be just about any
Whatever
sport.
you want.
I'll say Rashard Lewis, just because I was a little dude in like growing up in A-Leaf, going to Elsick High School basketball games and watching that dude. Like, man, he going to the NBA. Like, I was one of those kids with my little sheet of paper trying to get his autograph. But those 3 for sure. And then I'll take it a little outside the box. I'll say C.D. Lamb. One of the best receivers I ever seen with my own 2 eyes. My brother coached him at Richmond Foster High School. So that's 4.
He was giving that work in high school like that.
Man, he was giving work in high school.
Did he play basketball too?
I'm not sure if he played basketball, but
He's tall enough.
But I'm just saying, football wise, they were amazing, and they had great teams over there at Richmond Foster. Like always, top 10 in the state, making it far in the playoffs, things like that. So that's one kid that I got to see on the football field personally because my brother coached him, of course.
All right, got one more.
And then, man, I mean, it's just a long list of guys. Like I could go on and on. Golly, another one. Trying to think of somebody.
It could be a girl too. It could be,
think
it
of
could be
somebody more recent. You know what? I'll give it to De'Aaron Fox. De'Aaron Fox.
That was
Like
one of
I
yours.
saw him in high school. Sure, I think that's when we were at Memphis at the time when he was in high school. But he's a killer.
Well, yeah, you remember what grade he was in when you saw him? When you saw that he was a killer?
When
and
I
you
saw him,
noticed
it was might have been his senior year.
Okay.
His senior year. So he played with a guy that I ended up coaching at Texas A&M, big dude Josh Nebo.
that? Yeah.
But
So quick
Yeah,
story
De'Aaron
about
Fox.
those two, starting with Josh Nebo. So when Darren's, I work with the Houston Hoops. When Fox was with us, the coach, the dad, Darren's dad, Aaron, they're like, hey, we got this guy. Let him come get some work. And we had like a second team. Josh Nebo comes, he puts some work on his second team. And that's what another thing I want, people to understand, and parents in amateur sports. Sometimes it's okay to not be on that top team.
exactly.
Because if Josh Nebo played on our top team, he wouldn't have played. Because we had 4 NBA players, with De'Aaron being one. He's having should be an all-star again. I mean, last year was a good year. He was an all-star. He's even better this year in the NBA.
For sure.
Robert Williams, who I don't know where he is with his injury, but before he got hurt, man, for the Celtics, his stat line defensively, like he was in the top half of NBA centers. So he was on that team. Jared Vanderbilt, who's playing a great role with the Lakers.
Yeah.
Carson Edwards, right? And then we had some other big guys. We had some forwards, Royce Ham. I don't know if you remember him,
Yeah,
went
I
to
remember
UT.
Royce
But
Ham, yeah.
so if Josh plays on that team, he doesn't get that development.
For sure.
So what did he do? I think he went to what school did he go to first?
He went to St. Francis, Brooklyn.
Yeah, and then comes out, transfers, and like he was in some conversations to make some money.
Oh, absolutely. Like, and he's making a lot of money right
Overseas,
now. Like he's playing for, I think, Maccabi Tel Aviv, and he's killing it.
So, Mike, coming out of high school, everybody wants to go to the D1 level. Everybody wants to get recruited by the household names, the Blue Bloods. You end up going the D2 route at Texas Lutheran. What was the decision that you decided to go that route as opposed to just trying to go to any D1 just to say you went to D1?
For sure. I think it's a different day and age, too. Like, when I was in high school, I mean, I graduated high school in 2001. And, again, same years as TJ, Carlos, Daniel Ewing, Kenny Taylor,
Price,
Antoine Hood.
Price out in Clear Lake was in that league that had the longest
Ronnie
NBA
Price,
career
for
out
sure.
of those guys.
So same year as all those. And then, like, I mean, we were in an era where, like, now you got social media, you got YouTube, you got all these, like, people starting their own businesses, like, making highlight films and things like that. Like, we didn't have that. Like, I'm sitting asking my head coach, my high school coach, for game film, like tapes. And I put them in these envelopes and I'm sending them out to any school I could reach out to, like, all across the state of Texas. And so it really wasn't, did you have a choice, D1 or D2? Did you choose D2 over D1? That was just an opportunity I was given. Like, Texas Lutheran at the time was transitioning. It went from NAIA to D2 to eventually D3, which they still D3 now. But it was just an opportunity. It was an opportunity, and one of the places that I sent game film to. Like, I'm sending game film for Rosenberg Terry, like, playing against TJ Ford and losing by 50 to Willow Ridge, but hey, I still had 25 points.
Hey, there you go.
Here's my game film, coach. But if I could do it all over again, people always ask me, like, would you go D1 now that you know how the landscape is of D1? Like, would you go just walk on somewhere just so you could have that D1 attachment to your name? And probably not. Like, I think, like, I made a good name for myself on the D2 side, and just playing small college ball and working my way up from there, and still got an opportunity to play, professionally, and then get into coaching afterwards, which I thought I would never even get into coaching, but now I'm a coach and it's my career.
So there's a lot of guys that come from the D2 level that make it in the professional ranks,
For sure.
or even guys that play D3. One guy that I knew was like Devin George, for example, that was a great long NBA career. What are you telling guys nowadays that you're in your role now, or even guys that were coming up that used to coach AAU, guys or girls, about taking their talents overseas as opposed to just trying to play at the NBA or WNBA level?
I think, like, I even tell our guys right now, the guys that I'm currently coaching, the guys that I've coached the past 10 years, like, there's an opportunity out there for everybody. We got a kid on our team, I won't say any names, but we got a kid on our team who's a transfer. He's been at 4 different schools. This is school number 4. And he's not playing a whole lot for us. Really good player, though. Really good player. It's just the opportunity just hasn't been right to get him in. And I told him, like, hey, man, just stay the course. Like, there's an opportunity for you out there. Whether you a walk-on, whether you a, like, 4-time all-conference player at the D1 level, D2, D3, or you don't even play. If basketball is your aspiration, basketball is your dream, there's an opportunity out there. People don't know, like there's countries, like the first year I played in the 3rd division in Germany. And just because I wanted to play basketball, like I wanted to play professional basketball. 3rd division in Germany, making €1,000 a month, which is like $1,500 a month. I didn't have no bills or anything, but I'm fresh out of college, getting a chance to make some money, and play basketball and call it professional basketball. So I told our kid back at George Mason, like, hey, man, if you want to play overseas, there's going to be an opportunity for you out there. It might be a low level somewhere, and you could work your way up, get some film that way. But just stay the course, be a good teammate, and an opportunity will come. It's not all about the NBA and the G League. That's not the end all be all. There's opportunities everywhere. Like every country has their own NBA, their own G League, and then some have like 4 other minor leagues that are getting paid still. Like some of them you go third division somewhere and still make decent money, like $35,000 a year. Some people don't make that a year here in the States.
And not to mention a chance to see the world.
Exactly.
And a lot of times, that 1,000 euros, but a lot of times you're getting most of your bills paid for there.
Exactly.
Getting to see the world, and like you said, play the game you love. So, how did going to Texas Lutheran? How did that experience at the D2 level? How does that help you in your college career now from a coaching standpoint? What did you see? Because obviously you went to a school that didn't have the accommodations that a lot of the schools you've worked at have.
How did it help me? Just being able to see and at least knowing or have knowledge of the other side. I'm at the D1 level. I've only been at the D1 level coaching wise. But then just knowing like I played small college ball. I've been to a bunch of small colleges, seen the facilities they have, the resources they have, the money they have, the way that they travel, things like that. Just me knowing that side of it kind of helps me, like, it humbles me out a little bit, myself, like just being, putting myself in my place, like, hey, like don't think you have it all, or you do, like you have it more than other guys, but you did come from the bottom and worked your way up. So it kind of helps me on that side, just the appreciation for all levels of basketball and not just where I'm at.
So the coaching trajectory that you have been on has been one that needs to be talked about and documented. Underrated coaching trajectory. So everybody out there that has aspirations to be a coach, wants to know what coaches go through. Mike's resume of where he's at today from where he was when he first started his coaching career is unbelievable. So I'm just going to read off a few of his trajectory. First started off on the Division I side, on the women's side. First, he started off as an AAU coach. Let's make sure we give some love to the AAU coaches. Sophia Young Elite, correct?
For sure.
What team was that?
Sophia Young Elite. Sophia Young. Tell everybody about your AAU real quick, about your AAU coaching days.
Sophia Young, she played for the WNBA, the San Antonio Silver Stars. She's now an assistant coach at Baylor, but she's one of the greatest players to ever play at University of Baylor, won a national championship there. She was with the Silver Stars, and at the time, I was working with the Stars on the WNBA side and the Spurs on the NBA side, so just the organization as a whole. And training kids on the side just to make a little extra pocket change. And I just went to Sophia one day. I'm like, man, because a lot of kids that I was training, boys and girls, was asking me, Coach, you should make an AAU team. You should make an AAU team. And I'm just like, nah, I'm not trying to do that. Like, the Spurs and the Silver Stars took up so much of my time, and I just did this just for fun. And eventually I just kept hearing it from kids, and I'm like, man, you know what? Let me make an AAU team. So I asked Sophia, like, man, you ever think about making a team? Like, just putting your name on it, sponsoring it. And she was all about it. She was a 3-time WNBA All-Star at the time. She's like, yeah, I'll do it. And so we ended up making Sophia Young Elite. Did that for 4 years and had, like, just her name alone at the time. Like, she was just a big name in WNBA and women's basketball, girls basketball. It helped recruit, like, big-time players all over the state of Texas. Like, we were based out of San Antonio, but we had girls from Houston and Austin, Dallas, San Antonio, even from the Valley in South Texas. So started that program, had a boys team as well, but it didn't have an NBA name to it. It was just a small little local boys team, just with the kids that I coached. But our girls team was big time. Like, we had girls end up like going to Oklahoma, Duke, Texas, New Mexico State, where else? Colorado, UCLA, Baylor.
Dang.
Yeah, big time. We had some big time players, and that actually helped me get my first college job, which was on the women's side at Louisiana Tech.
So before Everest goes back in this tree, I just want to, man, respect to your grind, man. People don't understand.
Absolutely.
That's a true starting from the bottom.
Absolutely.
Going there. And then later on, I want to get into a little bit of story about you guys and the Spurs.
Yeah. So before I get into the trajectory, Mike, you really love the women's game. Although you coaching the men's game, the men's side now, yo start coaching was on the women's side.
For sure.
That's really unique because there aren't a lot of men's coaches that start off on the women's side, and there aren't a lot of men's coaches that start off on the women's side. But you have seen both sides, and we'll get to your coaching. You coach Division I on both sides now, the assistant coach. So
for sure.
Before I get into your tree again, which side do you feel like is the most pure out of both sides?
The most pure?
Yeah.
Both are
less politics.
Yeah, both are pretty even. Like the women's side is more, of course it's below the rim and it's a lot more fundamental. The men's side is, at least at the Division I level, it's you got high flying athletes, you got above the rim, you got just the speed and the pace of the game is a lot faster. But both have their pros and cons.
Right. All right, so let's get back to Mike's journey.
Yeah,
everybody out there, listen to this right here. This right here is something that should inspire anybody that's sitting at home, watching this video, listening to Mike's story, that if you want to be a coach, and not even if you want to be a coach, but somebody, if you want to be an artist or whatever, like this is how you grind. So Mike started off as a volunteer, not even no volunteer title. He started off as a volunteer, a jack of all trades, just doing a little bit of everything. Then he got moved over to special assistant, then multimedia specialist.
Where's this at?
We ain't gonna mention the names
Okay,
right now. We're just gonna mention the trajectory.
I got you.
Multimedia specialist, recruiting coordinator, video coordinator, player development.
Hold on. Volunteer, no title.
Volunteer, no title. Like we just volunteer, no title. He just volunteer. He just came in like, hey, what can I do? You know, let me do something. Player development coach, and then assistant coach. So if you count that, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 jobs or 6 opportunities, 6 titles before you got a chance to make your first assistant coach, official assistant coach spot. Talk to the people out there about just that grind.
Don't knock my grind either. I was director of scouting too. You don't got it.
Director of scouting. Hey, look. Video coordinator, director. Hey, look. 7, my man.
I was probably every title you could possibly have as a college basketball, like working in, other than head coach, just working in college basketball. It started, like you said, Louisiana Tech as an assistant coach. Got that because I was an AAU coach on the women's side. And just through the right people, worked for an amazing coach at Louisiana Tech and Teresa Weatherspoon, who ended up being an assistant with the New Orleans Pelicans and is now the head coach with the Chicago Sky. She just got the job a few months back. But amazing year, amazing opportunity to work for her, a legend, a basketball Hall of Famer, and not just women's basketball. She's a basketball Hall of Famer. And that was 1 year on the women's side, and it was like 1 year was kind of enough for me. I wanted to get back to the men's side, and it was just through knowing the right people, and having good relationships. Ended up going to University of Memphis, working, like Ever said, volunteer for the team. They gave me a position, but it wasn't paid, and just jack of all trades, helping out wherever I could. But I was working on campus also. I was working in the rec center. I was teaching classes. Like I was doing everything. And then it led into a job. So 1 year, not even a year, maybe 8 months as a volunteer, and it led into an actual job at University of Memphis. Then new coach comes in the following year, and I stayed on with that new coach for 2 years. Then go to University of Nevada, multimedia specialist. Then Texas A&M, video coordinator, director of scouting. Arkansas, player development. Sam Houston, assistant coach, and George Mason, assistant coach. So been around the block, but have worked for some amazing coaches. And if you just look at, my tree as far as like working up the ladder from volunteer to currently assistant coach in the A-10, is also like I can't discredit the people that I worked for. Teresa Weatherspoon, Hall of Famer. Josh Pastner, great Division I basketball coach. Tubby Smith, Hall of Famer. Eric Musselman, who's killing it in Division I right now. Buzz Williams, well respected, killing it in the SEC level at Texas A&M. And Jason Hooten, which not a lot of people know much about Jason Hooten, but he was at Sam Houston for 13 years, averaging 23 wins a year, and finally got another opportunity at New Mexico State, which is well deserved. And then now work for one of my really good friends in Tony Skinn at George Mason, who's played in the Final Four, playing the Olympics, and well respected in the college game as well. So even just the people that I've worked for, like they've made me who I am as a coach.
Man, that's pretty awesome right there.
Man, hey, look, so follow Mike everywhere. We'll get to his social media in a minute, but this is a story that, everyone should aspire to. Mike, before we get to recruiting, our next topic, when you have young folks that are coaches coming up, graduate assistants, interns, volunteers, people that you see that have done what you have done to get to where you are today, what kind of advice do you give them when they say, hey, Coach Mike, I want to be assistant coach, or I want to do this? What kind of advice you give them?
Advice, like a lot of people always ask me, like even our current GAs, our managers, and even players, like our former players, reach out to me wanting to get into coaching, and I'm just like, what have you done? What have you done where you are or where you've been? What kind of relationships do you have? Like I could go down a list of all those coaches that I've worked for, whatever job it was, from unpaid to the highest paid or whatever. And all of those people would like I have good relationships with them still to this day. I could pick up the phone and call them. They could pick up the phone for me and make a call for me to anybody in the country. I left a good impression on them, or what I say is not necessarily an impression. An impression is something when you first walk in the door, what do you look like? Like when they first meet you, that's the impression. But the year that you worked for them, the 2 years, the 3 years, the time that you're with them, what kind of impact did you leave on them? Not just an impression, but I always ask God, what kind of impact did you leave? Like for me, what kind of impact did you leave on Tubby Smith? What kind of impact did you leave on Buzz Williams or Eric Musselman or Josh Pastner? For me, I think it's a pretty good enough impact that they would pick up the phone and call for me to get another job, or they would hire me back, just as if like how Eric Musselman did. I worked for him at Nevada, went to another school, and he hired me back. So I tell guys, like, what kind of impact are you leaving with coaches that you've worked for, even if you're a manager or GA, or are you doing extra? Like, are you just waiting for somebody to give you a task to do, or are you, being proactive and willing to help, willing to do this, willing to do things that aren't with your job title or your job description? What kind of impact did you leave? What kind of relationship do you have, and who do you know? Like, who can call for you? Because that's what it's all about. It's all about who you know. There's gone are the days where you could just go online and fill out an application and get a job. It's all about who you know in whatever industry you work in.
And I want to add something to that. Like when you were at Nevada and Musselman got the job at Arkansas, he elevated.
Yeah,
he easily could have went elsewhere to get someone for that position.
for sure.
Anybody would have wanted that because a lot more comes when you elevate. And he brought you. I think that says a lot to you,
For sure.
about you, that he chose to bring you in or keep you and move instead of bringing someone from the outside that, hey, I want to be in the SEC. Also, what I really admire is the grind from playing Division II. That's one grind, but just the volunteering time. Like, people don't understand. When you're volunteering, you are not getting paid.
For sure.
Right? They might find something here or there. I had one conversation with you one time just about, man, I'm eating the leftover food, or when they're feeding the players, I'm taking a couple. This is my lunch. This is my dinner that I'm taking, during those times when you were on those volunteering lower level staffs position, teaching classes, working on campus. But guess what? You still have that same expectation to be there for your team,
Sure.
to help them, or, hey, man, I'll get somebody else to come in here.
Yeah.
And so a lot of people in this, a lot of people we think that they just got to come in and I'm gonna get this position, or
Right.
hey, I played, I did this, hook me up. No, there was a grind to get to where you were,
For sure.
where you are right now.
Yeah, and it's crazy. Like people ask me, like, man, how did you get to this school or work for this guy or that guy? Before I worked for, like I said, it's all about who you know. Before I went to Memphis and worked for Josh Passer, like, I mean, I knew Josh a little bit just from Houston, and he was with the hoops and all that, but I didn't really know him. It was all about who you know, who you knew, who else you knew around there, or who knew Josh, or who could call Josh for you. But then I go to Nevada, worked for Josh for 2 years, worked for Tubby Smith for 2 years at Memphis, then go to Nevada. I didn't know Eric Musselman at all. All I knew was he was an NBA head coach for the Kings and the Warriors, and he's respected in basketball. But man, how can I get a job with him? Josh Pastor picked up the phone and called Eric Musselman. Tubby Smith picked up the phone and called Eric Musselman. It was like, this is your guy. And that was it. Like, Musselman was like, okay, you got two really good, respected guys in the business call me for you. And that's how I got the job. 1 year at Nevada, we had an amazing year. We ranked top 10 in the country the whole year. We had a bunch of pros, and it was good.
That's when you had the Martin twins.
We had the Martin twins. Yeah. Musk gets the job at Arkansas, and there was an opportunity there, but there was a better opportunity at Texas A&M. And so Buzz Williams, and I met Buzz through one of the guys that worked in Nevada. His brother was on Buzz's staff at Virginia Tech, going to A&M with him. Buzz didn't know me at all. And Buzz interviewed me and was like, man, I don't hire people I don't know. I'm just telling you right now. He said, so it has to be something about you that like stands out amongst other guys that want this job, or amongst people that have worked for me the past 10 years or so. Eric Musselman called Buzz and was like, man, I'll bring Mike with me. Like, Mike is amazing. Like, you should hire him. Josh Pastor calls Buzz and was like, the same thing. Tubby Smith called Buzz, and Buzz told me straight up. He's pretty transparent. He's like, man, all these people calling me, but a lot of people calling me for other guys. Like, what makes you stand out amongst other guys? And he was like, you know what it is? And I'm like, what, coach? Like, this is in an interview.
Yeah.
And he's like, man, Josh Pastor called me. And Josh Pastor told me the first year at Memphis, like, you were volunteer. You would go to Orange Theory Fitness and train people at 5 a.m. in the morning. And then you would come over to Memphis and be there all day and work. And you would work on campus. You would come to practice. You would do all these things. Then you would go in the office and you would work. And then you would go home late at night, wake up the next day, 4 a.m., go to Orange Theory Fitness and train people, and then come work for him as a volunteer. He said, that's why I'm hiring you at Texas A&M.
Yeah.
And I was like, it almost brought me to tears. I'm like, damn.
It almost made me a tear.
He's
about
just
that.
like, man, the grind that you put in, like, he's like, that's just respected. And Josh called and told me that you were the guy. He's like, Tubby and Eric Musselman called and told me you were the guy. But until Josh told me that story, like, of you getting up every day at 4 o'clock in the morning to go to some fitness center and work out old ladies, and then go to Memphis and work in the classroom and in the rec center, and then still be on the court and help out wherever you need it on the basketball side. He said, that's respected, and that's why I'm going to hire you. And so he hired me at A&M, worked for him 2 years, and all the respect for Buzz Williams for giving me the opportunity.
So Mike, we're going to get into one of the hottest topics right now in college basketball, or college athletics, and that's recruiting, transfer portal, NIL. We're going to bunch all these up together. So first question I want to ask you is, you lived all over the country with all these different basketball programs. You lived overseas, you lived everywhere.
For sure.
You've seen pretty much every facet of basketball and recruiting. So tell the people out here, what's the best place to recruit from?
The best place to recruit from, I could be biased by saying it was state of Texas. Texas is everything. Like, Texas is from Houston to Dallas to Austin, wherever you go, like, there's players here. And there's so many schools, even Division I schools. There's so many Division I schools in the state of Texas. Power 5 level, high, mid-major level, low major level. But there's even more players here than the schools, you know? A lot of coaches from around the country come to Texas to find their guys because they know like there's a lot of kids getting slept on around here or just missing like schools in the area kind of missing on them because there's so much to choose from. Like and other schools come to Texas just like we are at George Mason recruiting Texas, trying to find our niche.
So when you're recruiting nowadays, we got the transfer portal, we got the NIL piece. Everybody knows the NIL piece now is next to the transfer portal. That's really what you talk about when you talk about college athletics. So now you're in this opportunity, you're in a spot now at one of the most respected conferences in the country. How does these two areas affect your recruiting positively and negatively?
I mean, it's the nature of the game right now. It's NIL and the transfer portal. It's crazy. It affects it because, like, even just 4 or 5 years ago, you're recruiting. Like, when I was at University of Nevada, it was how many high school guys are we gonna get? You know, like you're signing 3, 4, 5 high school guys every year. Now it's well, we probably can only take one, maybe two, because we got to wait for the portal because we gonna get like 3 or 4 in the portal. Then depending on how your season is going, like man, like are we gonna be able to retain these guys, especially at our level at the A10, which is literally the next level to the level a notch below the Power Fives or the high majors. It's like if a guy's playing really well for us, you know, people gonna come knocking on his door to move up a level. Or if a guy isn't playing as much, then he'll drop down a level. So it's just numbers have changed in high school basketball recruiting. You're not signing as many guys as you used to, and then NIL has changed a lot. And when you go into like you're recruiting a kid, like sometimes it's recruiting them, building a relationship with the kid, the parents, the coaches, the trainers, and then sometimes it's just like how much money y'all got? How much you gonna give me? Well, they offer me this. How much y'all got? And it's not even like the relationship part is going out the door. Like,
and it's not basketball related.
It's not basketball related at all. It's just money.
Do coaches like or dislike NIL?
I think
depends on how much money you
got. It depends on how much money you got in the pool. Like schools have their collective right now. Some schools have millions, some schools have 100,000, some schools don't have much at all. So I guess it depends on how much money you got to work with.
So I guess my question is, do you feel like there'll ever be the NCAA will make an even playing field for NIL at some point?
That's the talk to make an even playing field, but I think there's always ways around that. Like some schools are gonna find ways around it, and it's kind of gotten to a point where NIL is supposed to be name, image, likeness. It's supposed to be building your brand as a basketball player, using your name to to help your brand. And now it's like just like money. Like you're supposed to be doing something for the money.
There ain't no more NIL. So the NIL part of it, the definition of NIL is not even that no more.
Exactly. It's going away from that. It's just like, hey, collect the check here and there. And but you're supposed to be doing something, whether it's signing autographs or doing community service or making appearances for the money. But we do it the right way where we are. Yeah. But some places it's not.
So even before NIL, maybe it wasn't NIL, but hey, this school has this much money because the alumni base, we building this facility, right? Yeah, so it's always something.
It's always something.
Mike, give us a story about NIL before NIL that you can say, you know what, I heard this story and this was crazy. You ain't got to mention no names, no college names, no nothing. It's a story that you heard of.
Definitely won't mention any names, but one of my good friends in the basketball business, has told me this before, but he had to make a trip. This was maybe 7 or 8 years ago, but he had to make a trip for his staff. He was on the support staff. Had to make a trip for his staff with a briefcase of cash to go deliver it.
Damn.
Yeah, so he was quote unquote the bag man, and he went and delivered that briefcase of cash to a kid. and they didn't even end up getting the kid.
But they got the money.
They definitely got the money.
Wow.
And it's,
Said
I mean,
briefcase, not
those
a sock, not a
Yeah,
little bag, he said
yeah.
briefcase.
a briefcase. So at least that's what he explained it as, a briefcase.
Yeah.
But they didn't even end up getting the kid. But that was before, like, you couldn't pay players, all of that, and this happened. And but you can't trace it like, hey, give my money back, or
Yeah.
I'm gonna call so and so on you. So because it was illegal back then. But yeah, it's crazy
Yeah. So, man, we got this segment called The Grass is Greener,
for sure.
where we give our guests an opportunity to highlight where program they're at, what they're doing right now. So,
Or even something outside of basketball.
something
business,
outside,
yeah.
right? So, you're at George Mason University at Fairfax, Virginia. You are the guy that's charged with bringing kids from Texas to the East Coast. So just tell all the fans out there, what is it about George Mason? Why should these parents that are watching this right now, or kids watching that, be interested in George Mason? All the things about it.
So George Mason University, like you said, Fairfax, Virginia, right outside of Washington, D.C. Like, my house is literally like 12 minutes from the White House. Not a lot of people know George Mason, just especially down here in the South, and I'm from down here. Like, people don't know, like, it's the name recognition, George Mason. Like, guys my age, our age, kind of know, like, oh yeah, the Final Four from 2006, you know. But other than that, like, high school kids right now don't really know George Mason. But George Mason, great spot. Like, a lot better than what I expected. Not saying I expected anything bad, but a beautiful campus, beautiful area. Fairfax, Virginia is the third wealthiest county in the country. Third wealthiest county in the country. Right outside of Washington, D.C. We play in the A10 conference. So literally right below the Power Five. So you got the Power Five conferences, and then you got the Atlantic 10. We talking schools like St. Bonaventure, Dayton, St. Louis, VCU, Rhode Island, UMass, St. Joe's, Fordham, Duquesne, Loyola Chicago, LaSalle, big time basketball conference. Basketball is king in the A10, and basketball is king at George Mason. Like, there's no football there. Like, you're everything. Like, you're a celebrity around campus. A campus amongst 42,000 students. 42,000 students, you'd be the fourth largest school in the state of Texas. Well, we got 42,000 students at George Mason, and not a lot of people know that it's the largest school in the DMV. You talking Maryland, Virginia, District of Columbia. It's the largest school in the area. Bigger than Maryland, bigger than Virginia, bigger than Virginia Tech, and so forth. So just a good spot. We got a lot going on with our head coach. Like, we just got a young, fiery staff that, we get out there and hoop with our guys. You know, like, we all played college ball. We all played. Several of us played professionally and know what it takes to get there, whether it be in the NBA or overseas. Know what it takes to get to those many opportunities that are out there for guys. And we got a good group of guys that, you know, like, gravitate to our players gravitate to us, and it's been good so far.
So, Christian, you being an AAU lifer, and you have guys that come up to your program. You have a lot of Power Five guys, and you have a lot of guys that are mid-major plus kind of guys. When you see what a program like George Mason is doing, they got every imaginable amenity that a Power Five program has. So what kind of advice are you giving guys that are on that level to go to some place like a George Mason?
Well, number one, you got to kind of do your research, right? Like, when you spend some time at George Mason, I mean, they first of all, I found out, not knocking any other school, I went up there. They had their own practice facility, which is being expanded on.
For sure.
Maryland, right? This great school. They didn't have they didn't have their own practice facility at that time. They might have gotten one here recently, but you don't know that kind of stuff. You don't hear about it. They really are invested in their program. And one thing, like he mentioned, there's no football, so there's no competition for where a lot of those resources are going.
Right.
obviously a big thing is the staff, right? Guys like Mike that are grinding, that are investing and putting in time. Coach Skins and Coach Butler and some of those other guys they have there. That's very important. But George Mason has his history, like you said, guys our age knows about it because of what they did, going to a Final Four, beating an amazing team, UConn team amongst others to make it to the Final Four. But you add that staff now has to continue to grow that name, and they have the guys that are invested in that. And for me, can I talk about my experience?
Yeah, go
people
ahead.
don't know. My son is going to George Mason, right? But Mike, he's here. He's not here for me. He's not here for my son. He's here investing his time in, like you said, this great state of Texas. So I can only speak off of my experience. I see guys that are here investing the time, and that's what's going to help or open up an opportunity for someone like my son and others from the state of Texas.
Right. So, Mike, hold on, I got to ask you this question because a lot of people don't know George Mason. It's the last thing on George Mason. Amenities-wise.
For sure.
A lot of people don't know, I got your own practice facility. Y'all eat great. Y'all got robots that bring kids food. But y'all also fly charter like a lot of the big schools. So when you're sitting down with a kid and their parents and like you really like this kid and you're like basically talking, basically rolling out everything that you guys have, you have nothing different. Or even Christian mentioned, y'all have more than some of the Power 5 schools have. What are you saying to mom and dad when you say, hey, you know what, little Johnny, little Janie, I would love for you guys to come to George Mason, and this is the reason why?
It's about the people. Like if you go down the list and I ask them, I can ask a kid about whatever schools. No knock on any schools, or we never negative recruit and talk about any other programs. But you tell me what schools are recruiting you. All right, what do they have? We got that too. How do they fly? We do the same. We charter. How do they eat? We got training table. You eat 3 times a day, like on our dime. You're never paying for any food. How do they live? Well, come look at our apartments too. So everything down the list of what a Power 5 school has or what the big-time mid-major schools have, like we have it all the same. I would just say it's more so about the people, man. Like starting with Coach Skin, our head coach, like the level that he's played at, the level that he's coached at, and it's the person that he is, like not a lot of head coaches. I've worked for a lot of guys. Not a lot of head coaches are like Coach Skin and the relationship he has with players and how he can relate to those guys. And then just going down the list of our staff, with myself, with Coach Hennett, Coach Current, Coach Butler, Mark Belkowski, like our entire staff, like just the places that we've been, the players that we've coached. And, we're all right around the same age and just a relatable age to those kids. So it's all about the relationship, man. Like all the buildings are all the same, whether it's at George Mason or at, University of Houston or University of Maryland or UCLA. We got all the same stuff, but it's who you coming to play for, who you going to be around every day, from the strength coach to the athletic trainer to the assistant coaches and the head coach. Just those relationships mean the most.
All right, so we're to the segment, Rooted to the Ground, presented by Kicks Out of Life. Part we want to talk about what's on our feet. I'm going to start with you, E. I didn't really notice. I peeped this, R.I.P. Kobe, but this is some high-level Kobe gear, man. But I see you. I think the Kobe 8s,
Yes, sir. Kobe 8s.
Right? I don't know which ones those are, but that's definitely a throwback, right?
Yes, sir.
So today is a rainy day in Houston, Texas. The other day, I had on some Gore-Tex Jordan 1s. This is another pair of Gore-Tex Jordan 1s. E, you ain't showing me no love yesterday. These are even more plain, those. But, I love the outdoors, and the water runs right off these. But Mike, we don't. Every time I see you, you high level.
Hey, Mike is high fashion.
We out of your league, man.
He high fashion, man. Hey, man.
Chill. So these are, I got the George Mason, my head coach. He's a big designer guy. So Little designer kicks right here. Some Kurt Geigers.
Okay.
Yeah, you catch them.
Hey,
try to
hey,
get to your level,
hey, man, I
man.
need to
We
get
gotta
to
up our
that. Yeah,
game,
we over here doing Nikes, and man, this guy coming out with stuff we never even heard of before,
I
man.
ain't get the memo on the Nike.
Nah,
man.
that's okay.
But yeah, little designer kicks right here.
Hey man, they must be paying good up in Jordan.
Yeah.
The third most wealthiest county. You know, they got
Yeah.
bread up there. You know what I'm
Hey,
saying?
so real quick, Mike, can we get your social media for people to follow you?
Absolutely. So I'm on Twitter and Instagram at Coach Mike and then 2 underscores.
All right. And when you get a chance, please check out Kicks Out of Life at Kicks Out of Life. Just at Kicks Out of Life, right? As it's spelled out, man. And we're telling stories through kicks, and you hope we'll take a kick out of life with us.
Now, while we're still on, we're still on Rooted to the Ground. Mike, give us your Mount Rushmore all-time favorite basketball shoes ever.
Favorite basketball shoes ever.
All
Ooh,
time.
I would say Jordan 11s.
Ooh.
It's my favorite shoe.
Yeah,
all time, man.
it's my favorite shoe, period. I actually played in them, and people say, how you playing in 11s? Well, yeah, I played in an era where you could play in the 11s.
Yeah.
But now you just wear them for show.
I got Jordan 11.
Jordan 11s. The Iversons. The answer. With the
The one with the toe?
Yeah, with the toe, like the patent leather toe.
The one where he crossed up Jordan?
Yeah, with the patent leather toe.
Got the Reebok Iverson.
Yeah.
Questions.
The questions. Yeah, there you go. I would say the Harachis.
Ooh, you hooped the
Old
Harachis?
Yeah. We hooped the
Michigan
Harachis.
boy.
My
They
senior year
had
in
no
college.
ankle support in the
My
boys.
senior year in college. No, it was the tall.
the tall one.
Yeah.
Oh, not all. I'm thinking of the short
jumps.
ones.
Yeah, the high top jumps. Let me see. What other ones?
You got one more.
The Kobe Crazy Eights.
Yeah, the Adidas
Crazy
version.
Eights, the Adidas version.
Yeah.
Is that the first? That's the
That's
first.
one.
That's
Yeah,
the first
yeah,
one.
yeah.
First Crazy Eights Kobe.
Ooh, hey, that's some good. That's some good fix right there.
Yeah, for sure.
You wanted to ask Mike one other question before we let him get out of
I
here?
want to know favorite athlete all time.
Favorite athlete all time.
Any sport.
Yeah,
anything.
for sure. Gotta be Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan. That's just the one that, like me growing up as a kid, everybody want to be like Mike, want to fly like Mike.
Y'all give me a next one because he's the Omega, baby.
Yeah,
Mike,
yeah, he's-
Mike
I
better
feel
be
like-
on your list.
I feel like Mike just is understood. I feel like
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
understand.
feel like he got to
Given.
give him.
It's
Yeah,
like that
man.
shot. A given.
Yeah, that one that's in front of the visible X on the
Yeah,
problem.
there
That's
you
already
go.
you know
For
what's
sure.
there.
So yeah, Mike is in his own
Yeah, so
level,
give us somebody that's not Michael Jordan, like the next best.
the next best favorite athlete. Deion Sanders.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, Deion Sanders, just he could do it all. If he could have played in the NBA also, he probably would have done that too.
Right.
But Deion Sanders for sure, that's just one. I had his poster on my wall as a kid, playing for the Falcons, the Cowboys, 49ers, even playing baseball. Another one I would say, if y'all remember him, Michael Johnson.
Yeah, gold shoes.
Yeah, Michael Johnson, Olympian, ran the 200, ran the 400.
Hey, for all the screwheads out there, ESG rapped about it, talking about you running like Michael Johnson them gold
For
shoes.
sure. So when I was in high school, I had never ran track. My junior year of high school, they're like, man, come out for track. I'm like, all right, cool, let's go. I didn't know anything about it, like what the 100, like how far that was, 200, 400, 1600, all of that. But I just remember Michael Johnson was so good at the 400. They're like, what do you want to run? I was like, man, I'll run the 400.
So you realize that's a
Yeah,
lot.
they was like, hey man, it's one time around. I was like, oh. Yeah. So, and I ended up being all right at it. But yeah, so Michael Johnson for sure. He's big time athlete
Hey, I wanted to get a chance. You got a household where you're a basketball guy.
for sure.
Your brother coaches football. Number one, did you play football? And what was your tell us about your brother and his football playing career?
sure.
And give a shout out to where he's coaching right now.
Absolutely. So I played football like young, like just at a young age, like growing up and then up to middle school. I didn't play past high school. Playing in Houston, it's too hot.
Yeah.
Too hot. That's why you look at me and my brother. My brother black as hell. Like, cause he played football all his life. But he played at Rosenberg Terry also. He was all state at Terry. They had a really good team his senior year. He signed with Arkansas State. Played a year at Arkansas State. Then played at Stephen F. Austin, and then finished at Southwestern, NAIA Southwestern.
Georgetown, Texas, right?
No. Southwestern in Waxahachie.
Gotcha.
Yeah, Waxahachie. So he finished there. He was an NAIA All-American 3 years in a row. Still has a school record for interceptions. And he ended up playing professionally indoor with the Pittsburgh Power, the Arena Football League. And then now he's coaching. So he's been coaching at Richmond Foster and just started this year at Grand Oaks in Conroe.
Yeah, shout out to Grand Oaks. They got something brewing over there. It's a beautiful campus over there too.
Yeah,
shout out to Grand Oaks. Shout out to brother Nick when you see this. All right, Mike, we got to get you out of here. I know you got to get back on the recruiting trail. You're in town trying to find the next George Mason Patriot. Thank you so much for stopping by Apollo Media Network. Christian Begg.
Appreciate your time.
Absolutely. Appreciate y'all having me.
First college coach we had on this thing.
Yeah, many more. As always, follow Apollo Media Network at Apollo HOU. Till next time, the grass is always greener. Thanks.